Welcome to Energy Thinks, a podcast about the oil and gas industry's role in the energy future. I'm Tisha Schuler, your host and the CEO of Adamantine Energy. I have a solo episode for you today. It's going to be a little shorter than usual. I'll just tee up a few things I'm working on, and you're going to get more of those both in my writing, my weekly newsletter, both of these things are true, and also in upcoming interviews and solo pods. Lots of cool stuff going on. I'll give you a quick personal update. Then I want to talk about the center left politically and youth, and then the Problem Solvers series that I am writing, and just give you a little preview and also solicit your input. I hope you'll go to energythinks.com to learn more about our work at Adamantine. While you're there, subscribe to my weekly newsletter. As many of you have requested, you can both sign up for the newsletter as a free option, or if you want to support my work and you're not an Adamantine client, we have a paid option for you too. I hope you enjoy today's solo pod with me, myself, and I. Okay, first order of business, I have a quick personal update for you. I'm in the midst of much travel, and I get some fun things mixed in there as well. My husband and I went out to see our youngest out on the West Coast. He's a freshman in college, and it was his birthday, and he was ambivalent or ambiguous, both ambivalent and ambiguous about whether he wanted us to come or not. So we just did with that sort of like low touch way parents do when you're not sure if your kid wants you around or not, but we had just a lovely time. We got to take a couple of the new fraternity brothers out to dinner, and we did something that I thought was hilarious. So I have not been to the fraternity. My only request was I wanted to see the fraternity. Well, apparently when it's not parents' weekend, no one should see the fraternity because I was told I would not be seeing the fraternity. So of course, the 18, now 19-year-old doesn't wake up till, 11 noon. So the husband and I were up, we went to the gym, we went for a hike. It's still only like 9:30 a.m. And so Brian asked, do you want to drive by the frat house? So we did. We parked, we grabbed a bunch of detritus out of the yard, which isn't that hard to do. And then we took a picture in front of the frat, like we were there for a party. And then we sent it to the youngest and said that we knocked on the door and the brothers were kind enough to give us a tour, but don't worry, we said we were Joe's parents, not my son's parents. And I just want you all to know we're now famous on the frat chat. Apparently they don't call it that. That's what I call it, the frat chat. So that was pretty fun. And I probably just overshared, but it was sort of the highlight of my, my weekend. It was really funny. Oh, because it got the immediate phone call. You did what? What have you done? So it was really fun and funny. Okay. We went straight from there I went to the Bay Area to Berkeley, where I got to serve in my first board meeting for the Breakthrough Institute as the chair of the board. As a reminder, regular listeners know the Breakthrough Institute is a center-left think tank based in Berkeley. And I've served on the board for, I don't know how many years, but let's just say 8 or 9 or something. And now I'm the chair. And for me, it's very exciting. It's a lot of work. I want to do it well, and I just can't think of a better, more important time. And because I spent 2 days, working and thinking in that center left space, I have a few things to convey to you about that. That'll be the next topic. But I really enjoyed it. And while the rest of America was freezing, I was in Berkeley where it was like 60 degrees. It was lovely. And then the next fitness journey adventure is I'm going to Costa Rica for a women's surf trip to surf the second longest left in the world. And I'm really excited. And I told you all I was going to hit the weight room, which I have been doing, but I signed up for this online, prepare for your surf trip video series, thinking it was going to be weight room stuff. And it's all Pilates, which I've never done. And I'm always 10 years late to every trend, but certainly any fitness trend. I just figured out Peloton bikes are a thing. So I've been doing these Pilates workouts where you lift your feet 1 inch and oh my gosh, I'm going to be so strong and my waist is going to be 4 inches in diameter because it's so much core work. It's amazing. So it's not the hitting the weight room. So I'm just trying to do that separately, but I'm kind of excited to just see what that will all mean for my trip. And the husband and I got out on the skis for the first time. There's no snow in Colorado, so we just did 5 runs, but I just had to get out. It was becoming this mental obstacle that I was afraid to get on my skis. And for those of you who are longtime listeners, I'm a new skier. So I used to be a snowboarder and I made the transition. And I just want to say, like, I'm not as terrible as I thought I was. I got right down the blue, no problem. I never had to do a pizza. Maybe even though there's no snow to ski on, maybe I'll really make the advance I want to hit in the moguls this year. All right, that's a personal update. So let's hit the second topic, the center, left, and you. So I've written some pieces about this. I'll link in the show notes, but I think it's really important that even if you're in any realm of apolitical, conservative, MAGA, passionate, any of those things, it's really important in America that we have two functioning parties that encourages civility, that encourages legislation, bipartisan legislation, that encourages incremental change, compromise, and progress. I think anyone who's listening to me, I don't really need to explain that to you. I don't think. And I think there's just this epic, awkward battle being waged for the future of the Democratic Party, the future of the left. I find myself reading these kind of wonky series around small L liberalism and small R republicanism and where we're going to go. But I'll just translate that into like, we need a coherent center. We need a growing center. So we need reasonable, pragmatic centrists on the right, and we need reasonable, pragmatic centrists on the left. And they're maybe you might quibble with some of those words, and probably rightly so. But for the purposes of this podcast, to not have a country run by either polarization or populism of both the left and the right, illiberalism on both the left and the right, we have to be curating the center. And so I think it takes both. Of course, my politics and relationships and intellectual preferences all live a little closer to the center left, although when I'm among center lefties, I'm like the conservative out there. I think that's where I land in sort of an honest assessment of my politics. So having spent a bunch of time now thinking about this, thinking about what's it going to take for Democrats to be overtly engaging and pragmatic around supporting oil and gas projects. What is it going to take to get permitting reform done? Like all of these kind of things. This pitched battle happening on the left for the future of Democratic politics, it really, really matters because the natural order of things will be for a pendulum swing from the current sort of more populist MAGA right to a populist, illiberal left. And a lot of progressive, I think, politics just naturally says that that's like the natural order of things. That's what we should want. But I think there's a lot of really interesting, really smart people who are trying to craft a pragmatic, centrist, Democrat future and platform. And here's the thing I think we need to care about is that we need to understand what's happening there. We need to engage and we need to be supportive in the sense that we can't always be critiquing pragmatic Democrats or pragmatic center lefties or pragmatic environmental organizations or pragmatic climate hawks. We can't always be critiquing them because they don't agree with us or they didn't come far enough. We actually need worthy opponents, worthy people with which to compromise. I guess what this is a plea for a couple things. One, be an organization and be a leader wherever you fall on the political spectrum, worthy of engaging with those with whom you disagree. So be smart, be curious, be willing to compromise, and be willing to look at things from their perspective, and be interested in finding middle ground, common ground, compromise, incremental progress that is not whole hog. This positioning is, well, first of all, it's just obvious. This is what we should be doing. But it's not obvious if you're out in that sort of celebratory world that feels like all the wind is at our political back. So if you're thinking about that, I've written a number of pieces for you. But I do think we have to actually really think about when I work with my clients or I'm advising, let's say an executive, it's really easy to say, yes, but, let's say, Clean Air Task Force or Environmental Defense Fund, like these organizations that just tend to be pragmatic, even the Breakthrough Institute, Third Way, something that Matt Iglesias wrote, something that even Ezra Klein wrote. It's easy to say yes, but. And I think what we should say is like, okay, what are they trying to answer to? What are they trying to craft out? What do they need to be successful? And what are the ways in which we can help them be successful? Because we need a smart, coherent, successful center left. So that's the seed I want to plant for you. There's a world, I suppose, where I'm wrong about that, but I don't live in it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm open to, because I'm having this conversation by myself with my second cup of coffee. Maybe I'm missing something obvious here. So I welcome your thoughtful, intelligent ideas to improve the way I'm thinking about this. Like my favorite trolls, I don't think my favorite trolls listen to this, so I don't really need to send you a message, favorite trolls. I think they just comment on the socials. So I think this is an important space that we need to craft. And so many of you who listen would characterize yourself in that center lefty world, in which case I think we need to work really, really hard to build momentum and build success and build allies on the center right, pragmatic right, in preparation for wherever the political winds shift next. All right, let me know what you think. All right, last topic for today is I have written a lot about the problem solvers. Quick refresh, the problem solvers are those people caught between climate aspiration and on the ground power and energy and climate reality. And so I've more or less narrowed down who I'm thinking of as the problem solvers as people in the public sector. So this would be public utilities commissioners, governors' appointees. But I do find that the work applies equally to many corporate sustainability or new energy ventures or business development types who are caught between like a net zero commitment and the on the ground realities around affordability, energy reliability, and just general malaise around putting climate centric action above these other priorities, including growing the power system. So anyone who's sort of caught in that world between the myth of an easy energy transition, we're going to hit these goals, it's going to be easy, all we need is a political will, and on the ground reality, the public, the customers, the voters care about cost, they care about no disruption to their service, and now they're curious but skeptical about what's happening in growth of the power system and what it's going to mean for the first two things. So we have just a much more skeptical, potentially hostile set of customers and stakeholders in the public. And this is a real challenge. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be writing 4 pieces with the problem solvers as the audience. And I think I'm going to call this series The Climate Dilemma. And I have a couple companies that are going to just provide some resources so that we can hire a data analysis firm to help build the case. Because as those of you who are regular readers and listeners know, the feedback I've been getting from the problem solvers, particularly those in blue jurisdictions, is there is not widespread consensus that the myth of an easy energy transition is a myth. There is still a whole world of people who are saying, but for these political wins, but for the Trump administration, we would have been successful. And so there is still a need for problem solvers to have the case made with data that's compelling. And I wrote a little bit about, and I've spoken and on a solo pod and written for you all about how high that burden of proof is, how hard it is to convert one's thinking to a new paradigm from the myth of an easy energy transition. So the first paper is going to be naming the conflict and articulating those problem solvers that have gone first already. This is like the New York Governor Hochul and her gas approvals. This is the way of California Governor Gavin Newsom has supported more oil and gas development in California. Like, what are the things that demonstrate that the world is changing? That's going to be the first piece. And so now many of you have reached out. I now have more of a problem solvers audience listening to these solo pods. So For those of you who are listening, or those of you who engage regularly and feel fluent in speaking problem solver, I welcome your reach out in order for us to stress test these ideas and improve upon them. So just know I have a few upcoming interviews for the podcast designed to continue to flesh out this center left, like build the center left, but which is like part of the momentum is to support the problem solvers. And then what do the problem solvers need to engage courageously in this really difficult time? And so I have at least 3 interviews coming, all focused on this topic. So there's going to be a lot more coming, but I would like to stress test these ideas, and I would like my work to really move the conversation forward. And I would love to write a piece that is so good that it gets forwarded around among problem solvers who are struggling to help each other, which might mean that I can't be the author of it. And that's fine too. Someone else needs to be the author of it, but we could at least work towards solving that. So I'd love your input on that. All right. That's all I wanted to cover today with you. So thanks so much. That's my episode for today. Thanks for listening to Energy Thinks. And thank you for your engagement. And I'm sorry, I am pretty busy right now, and I get a lot of really nice emails and sometimes voicemails and comments on the socials. And I cannot respond to all of them, but I do read them all, and I do use them to inform my work, except for the trolls, but you're not listening, so it doesn't matter. I just delete you. I don't care. All right. Please take a moment and review Energy Thinks. It helps others find our podcast. If you'd like to know more about our work at Adamantine, please go to energythinks.com. While you're there, you can sign up for my weekly newsletter. Both of these things are true. You can also buy my book, The Myth and the Moment, which sets the stage for all this work that we're doing. I'd like to thank many of you who have taken up the paid option for Substack. It's really nice. It just supports my work. It means I have to do, just creates an option that I have more time for writing and thinking, which I mostly do in the extra hours. I'd also like to thank my colleague, Elena Heyer, for making the Energy Thinks podcast possible. Until next time, I'm Tisha Schuler, wishing you and yours happiness, prosperity, and good health.